Here we go.
There is such thing as being too polite. I was raised to be very polite. I lived my whole life tiptoeing around other people's sensibilities and using euphemistic language that was subtle and not too harsh or abrasive. It got me a lot of praise. I was well liked among parents. I was generally considered a good kid. But it also got me into some trouble. I was too polite for a long time. And when I was younger, it got me in a position where I was continually sexually harassed by a boss of mine. I met Billy when I started working at Mahogany Ridge. I was 16 years old and a hostess. Mahogany was a popular brewery downtown. It was a really good job. The setting of the restaurant was warm and lively, and it was one of the most popular places in town, so everyone was there. You'd see your friends. I got paid better than most other hosts, since it was a fairly expensive restaurant, so tip money was nice, but not everything was as perfect as it seemed. When I was first hired, I was introduced to a white-haired man. He was also white, but with a beard. He was clearly a few decades older than me, much larger than me, an intense guy who was intimidating. He was named Billy, and he was going to be my manager. At first, he started off making some jokes. He would see girls come in, as they do to breweries late at night, wearing tight-fitting or low-cut clothing, things that might traditionally be considered promiscuous. He would start off by nudging me and pointing them out, commenting on how slutty they looked, and then saying, you should come in next shift wearing something like that. I didn't think it was funny, but I wanted to be polite, so I didn't say anything. Then his jokes escalated. One week, I was sick. I had a cough and a runny nose, all the common symptoms of a cold. The next week when I came in, Billy had also gotten sick. He was coughing, and someone asked him if he was feeling all right. He responded that he had just gotten sick from making out in the back with Zoe, which was untrue, and just another one of his jokes. He said it in front of me and the other hosts and the servers. It created a perception of me that I didn't want to be perceived as, especially as the youngest person working there and as a female who was still grappling for control of her own perception and her own body and those different things. And so I didn't think it was funny, but I wanted to be polite, so I stayed quiet. One day he felt bolder. I was wearing a new bra, and I'm very forgetful, so I forgot to take off the tag. One of the girls who was working with me noticed that the bra tag was hanging out, and she offered to take it off. I smiled, I said yes, I turned around. When she took it off, Billy swooped in, snagged the bra tag, and read my size. And he commented, "Oh my God," and started laughing. I begged for the bra tag back, but he just turned his back to me and passed it around to the male host and other servers. As they discussed my body, I grabbed it back, ripped it up, and threw it in the trash. That night, during my shift, I cried in the bathroom because, once again, it was an environment where my body was not my own. And I was needlessly sexualized, and it was playing on insecurities of mine that I had, where I'd been called slutty because of how I looked or what I wore, when it was really just my body type. It was just the way other people chose to perceive me and force that stereotype on me. And so I felt so out of control and hopeless and threatened by all these men making me into what they wanted me to be rather than what I actually was. But then I returned to my shift like normal. Deep down, though, I decided I had enough. I was sick of coming in afraid of what he would say. I was sick of coming in expecting to be out of my comfort zone and ashamed of existing simply because of the perception a man in power had of me. So one day after my shift, I snuck back to the back office and told my other manager what had been going on. It turns out I was not alone. One of the previous hosts had experienced this with him as well. He had whispered inappropriate things to her with his alcohol-scented breath quietly, and he hadn't said anything except to the other hosts. He would pester her with texts or jokes, even when his advances were clearly not reciprocated. He was also in the midst of sexually harassing another one of my coworkers, a waitress. He would feed her drinks during her shift to make her more susceptible to his advances. And he had actually, they discovered, sent her nudes on Facebook that morning. He was fired. And I was told that it was just what I had said, that first-person testimony, that, quote, was the straw that broke the camel's back. So when I used my voice, it had an impact. I helped remove a dangerous man from a position of power in my workplace. I potentially saved other young hostesses and waitresses from experiencing that discomfort and shame that Billy's advances cultivated in women. Even though whenever Billy stood too close, or made a joke, or touched my lower back, something inside me screamed that what was happening was wrong, I stayed quiet because I wanted to be polite for much too long. People, especially women in society, are taught to be polite, even when someone is being aggressive towards them or not respecting their boundaries. We silence ourselves for the sake of other people's pride or their self-image to the public, and that's when being polite becomes dangerous. Saying something could prevent harm to you or another. So trust your gut, speak up, and screw being polite.